Verőfényes vasárnapot kívánok mindenkinek egy megrázó magyarítással. Mint ismert, Dél-Afrika a Hágai Nemzetközi Bíróság elé citálta Izraelt, hogy ítéljék el népirtás vádjával a gázai események miatt. Ezzel kapcsolatban tette közzé gondolatait a dél-afrikai főrabbi. Ez vágott verzió, de aki olyan döbbenetesnek tartja, mint én, nézze meg az eredeti videót, és próbálja megérteni az automata fordítás segítségével.
The United Nations and its institutions have a credibility they do not deserve and have become a threat to freedom and democracy in the world. Israel's case before the UN's International Court of Justice should be used to expose this fact and begin the process of placing clear boundaries on the UN. I'm Warren Goldstein, the Chief Rabbi of South Africa, and here is why I say that. Consider that of the 193 members of the UN General Assembly, only 84 are ranked as free societies by Freedom House, a think tank in New York City, or that of the 47 members of the UN Human Rights Council, whose very reason for existence is to protect and uphold human rights, only 13 can be defined as fully economically and politically free, according to the Social Research Foundation Global Freedom Scores. How is it possible that the UN's top human rights body is dominated by countries that don't respect human rights? Many UN decisions are passed by simple majorities. What does it say about the quality and integrity of those decisions if these majority voting blocs are to a large extent made up of autocratic regimes? What does it say about the UN as a protector of human rights and international justice if the majority of its members have no regard for the values of freedom and democracy, or indeed of human rights? What are free societies doing, ceding their national security and strategic interests to the judgment of their repressive authoritarian enemies? It is a glaring question, and few democratic governments have a good answer, which is something the current International Court of Justice case can hopefully help to change. The UN, dominated by dictatorships, appoints the ICJ judges, who therefore by definition lack the moral authority to stand in judgment over any democracy, especially Israel. The UN's anti-Israel bias and obsession with the world's only Jewish state and the only free democracy in the Middle East makes this point clear. Consider that at the General Assembly each year there are more condemnations of Israel than the rest of the world combined. In 2022, for example, 15 resolutions passed against Israel and not a single resolution passed on the human rights situation in China, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Cuba, Turkey, Egypt, Zimbabwe, Pakistan, Qatar, Vietnam, Algeria. On the other hand, Iran, Syria, North Korea, Myanmar each received a grand total of 1. And that in 17 years, the UN's Human Rights Council has adopted 103 resolutions condemning Israel, compared to 0 for countries guilty of real human rights violations, such as China, Venezuela, and Saudi Arabia. Finally, consider that among the ICJ judges hearing this case, one is from serial human rights abuser China, and another is from Lebanon, if you can believe that, where Hezbollah, an Iranian proxy and combatant in the current war on Israel, is a key member of the government. Israel stands no chance of a fair trial and should take no part in the UN's ICJ charade, other than to cite some of the above statistics to make the argument that the International Court of Justice has no moral jurisdiction over it, and then to withdraw from the process. Now, I believe, is the time to walk away from this dangerous farce. In support, pro-freedom and democracy activists, politicians, and think tanks should lobby their governments to do the same. The time has come to build a new global alliance comprising free societies with shared values and a sincere commitment to human rights. The world stands on 3 things: justice, truth, and peace. Al-Hadin, ve'al-ha'emet, ve'al-ha'shalom. But note the order: first justice and truth, and then peace. Around 1800 years ago, in the ancient and eternal capital of the Jewish people, the great sages of the Jerusalem Talmud explained that without justice and truth, there can be no peace. And so Israel must stand firm against the intimidation of the United Nations and its so-called International Court of Justice. For as the prophet Isaiah said, Zion b'mishpat tipadeh, Zion will be redeemed through justice.
Köszönöm a figyelmet, ha tetszett, kérlek lájkold, oszd meg és iratkozz fel.